Hey, PHS, it's Flo, and welcome back to Go Knuckle Talk with Flo. Let me go ahead and introduce you to Lisa because we have several classmates from the class of '88 here. So, Miss Lisa,
Hi,
can you
Michael.
introduce? Hello, can you introduce
Hello.
everybody?
Lisa Nolan Hefner here in the house.
Class of
Anyway,
'83 for both of us,
yes,
by the
class of
way.
'83. So we have a really special show tonight, and I'm going to introduce first Coach Fred Oliver and his team of young men here. And he came up with the title for our show this time, right? Is that correct? Diamond in the Rough, Bulldogs '88, and they're all wearing their fabulous shirts. So without further ado, just wave Coach Oliver and Ronnie Ballard, Raymond Pena, Pete Holland, Lee Keller, and Wally Chavez. So welcome, guys. We are so thrilled that you decided to join us tonight. And before we get started with all the fun stuff, so Willie, tell us where you live and go.
Houston, Texas.
Houston, Texas. And Pete, where are you living now?
Lake Dallas, Texas.
Lake where?
Lake Dallas.
Okay, you cut out a little bit. Lake Dallas. Okay. Wally?
Round Rock, Texas.
Round Rock. Ronnie?
Plainview, Texas.
Woohoo! Ray?
I live in Chandler, Arizona.
Oh, Chandler's a cool place. Coach Oliver, you are living in
Weatherford, Texas.
Weatherford. And Lee?
I live in Colleyville, Texas.
Colleyville. Okay. So I'm in Dallas, so a few of you are close to me.
And I'm in Hempstead, which is 50 miles northwest of Houston. Willie and I are probably an hour and a half from each other, but yeah, Houston's a pretty good city, pretty big city. But so, gentlemen, class of '88, and all of you guys are from '88, all seniors, correct?
Yes.
Now, is this all the seniors from the class of '88? Wow. Who else? Who's missing?
Oh, we're missing Nick
Nick
Luna.
Luna.
Nick Luna.
Okay. He's the other one. So this is pretty good class. Because I think we only had like 5 or 6 maybe. But anyway, well, Miss Lisa, why don't you go ahead and start with the questions?
Okay, so I want to ask. I'll start with Wally. So, what got you into sports and baseball in particular? And at what age did you start playing?
Well, I was born into baseball. My family, they were baseball players, and I've got pictures of me at year and a half, 2 years with full uniform. I've got a full Plainview National League All-Star uniform with jacket and real cap at 2 years old. So I was just born into it. I'm not an athlete. I just played baseball all my life and was taught to play baseball all my life. And then, just went from there. I did love sports. I had 3 older brothers, and they all played all sports. And I just took a love into sports. If I were any more athletic, I probably would have been a little bit more accomplished in other areas. But, baseball is the one sport where you can be as small as I was and still contribute. And so that's what I loved about it. I did attempt to play football, and I don't know if Willie remembers this, but I was playing safety in 8th grade, and we were practicing, and he blew through the line. It was just Willie and I, and he didn't even try to juke me. He didn't try to fake me out. He just ran over me.
That's stunt your growth, huh?
Yeah.
What a friend.
Wally,
But that's how I got involved. My family was big baseball.
So, what position did you predominantly play?
So my arm qualified me to play second base. I was good with my glove. I think coach wanted me to play short, but that requires a longer throw. So I did play third base a little bit as a sophomore, but predominantly second base.
Okay.
As junior,
Okay,
senior.
so moving on to Ronnie. What got you inspired to play sports? When did you start? And
My family was not into the athletic part of it, but I did start. I probably started a year earlier than I was supposed to because my dad got talked into coaching one year, and I ended up being in T-ball for like 3 years instead of your normal 2 years. And from that point on, it was pretty much I went to athletics for a way to kind of get away from everything else that those happening in my life, and just kind of, that's where you could get lost in sport or whatever it was. But played baseball, pretty much from the time I was 4 on. And, that's where most of my long lasting relationships, all of our memories basically revolve around sports.
What position did you play? I mean, and when
My
you started
primary
in high
position
school?
was catcher. But, being not as talented as some of the people on this broadcast, I was a little right field. I occasionally was at a first base, some left field, but I wasn't fast enough to play in the outfield.
All right, what about you, Pete?
Yes, so I grew up baseball as well. My dad ran the summer program there in Plainview for quite a long time. 3 brothers all played baseball, so I played. It was to do the same for me. I wasn't big enough or fast enough. I wanted to play football, but got my bell rung a few times in the 8th grade and decided, no, that's not going to work out for me. So I've been played from the time I was T-ball all the way through college. Left-handed, so we're limited. I was either on the mound, playing first base, and a little bit of time in the outfield for me as well.
Okay, Ray?
Yeah, I'm like Petey and Wally. I was kind of born into this. My uncle, he went to school at Plainview too. His name was David Pena.
I'll play with David.
He was kind of yeah.
I'll play with David.
We're all the same. Yeah, and so growing up, my dad played semi-professional outside of Dallas, and Michael, you guys know they've been in Plainview a long time. They had a semi-professional team in Plainview too, and it was kind of like Wally. I came out with a glove and a ball in my hand, and so baseball was always my first love. As I got older, I was able to play football, basketball, ran track, did all that, but baseball was the predominantly, the sport that I excelled in, and I enjoyed it more than the other ones, because of my uncle and, guys like Jay Webb and Kevin Mosley, you guys. So it was like watching them play kind of, that's what I wanted to do. So he was kind of like my older brother since he was my uncle, his closest uncle to me. And so, that's how I ended up starting my baseball journey. Was just like Pete, from T-ball all the way up. I just it's what I enjoyed, and it was probably my favorite sport to play most of all.
Well, let me take a little quick story about your uncle David. He threw sidearm, so he was hard to hit. I mean, he sidearm, and my junior year, his senior year, we played Monterey doubleheader, and we were the first team to beat Monterey in a doubleheader in the Plainview history. And I believe your uncle hit a winning home run. Now, I don't know if it was a walk-off, but I think his home run put us ahead of Monterey the first game, or maybe the second. But he was a talented guy, and he was like 6'1" or 6'2". He was pretty tall. So anyway, that's a little story about your uncle. So how about you, Lee?
Oh man. So I was laughing when Wally made the comment about not being an athlete. Everybody, I'm sure, rolled their eyes. But when I say I wasn't an athlete, everybody's going to go, yeah, he's right. That's absolutely right. So shut up, Willie. I see that, man. I was really hoping we were going to talk about my greatest accomplishment in high school, which was being part of the Future Homemakers of America.
I thought you were going to say choir.
Yeah, but I was good. But I think Raymond knows why. And I guess if we can't say our teacher's name on here, we'll just say there was a reason why we were in Future Homemakers of America. So we'll just leave it at that.
Oh my gosh.
Is that right, Raymond?
Thank God there's no video and cameras back then.
Hey, man, brother. So anyway, no, but my parents just honestly couldn't stand me. And so it's like, what can we put Lee in that gets him out of the house as much as possible? So baseball, had the longest season and got me out of the house more. So there you go. And I loved it. I loved the sport. Wasn't great at it, but I just loved it. I liked the fact that it's a thinking man's game. Shut up, Ronnie. I know what you're thinking. But I just liked the fact that on every play you're thinking about what's happening next. What if the ball comes to me? Which is ironic because Coach Oliver always stuck me in right field where he hoped no one would hit the ball. Anyway.
Let me integrate this, Lee. integrate something here. You was one of unsung heroes in the Midland series. When Willie gets kicked out, you go to center field.
Yep.
Yep.
And if I recall right, you did get one of the hits that put us ahead.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad you remember it, guys, because I can't remember what I did yesterday. So, no, man, I just love the game. It was fun. The camaraderie, you know, it's so much different than any other sport where you can actually talk to the guys that are next to you, and we'll have a great story at some point tonight about Willie and my favorite conversation on a baseball field. So, but yeah, that's what got me in it, and what led me. Actually, I'm gonna reveal something on this show that I don't think any of my teammates even know about me. I actually was supposed to be class of '98, but because of my athletic and mental prowess, I actually got ahead 10 years. So I'm just thankful I got to be a part of this. That's why I look so much younger than everybody else on here.
So I thought we were supposed to tell the truth on this thing.
Yeah.
Oh, my
signed the
bad.
consent form there.
I forgot to read the rules, man.
Hey, did Willie play sports? Did he play any other sports?
Yeah, I wonder.
So, Coach Oliver, when did you start coaching baseball? I mean,
well, I was going to ask, did you play baseball when you were young?
Yeah.
You were a baseball player when you were in high school. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I was like Wally, another second baseman, and learned how to bunt a whole lot because I was right-handed, but my dad put me on the left side when I was a little kid, thank God. And so I hit left-handed, and actually played a couple years of junior college at Northeastern A&M. But I played baseball in the backyard a lot. Dad hitting me a lot of ground balls and playing a lot of catch. And that's where you did it.
And what high school?
That was Grove High School back in Northeast Oklahoma. I was an Okie, raised in Oklahoma.
I was born in Oklahoma. I was born in Clinton, Oklahoma. So
that's out west. Yeah.
But I was raised in Texas. But go ahead, Lisa. You're asking?
Yeah, no, so that's a great segue to the question is, so you had this love of baseball, obviously, or you wouldn't coach it. When did you start coaching baseball?
I started actually in high school, 1976. I graduated from Oklahoma State University in Stillwater, and my first job was in Duncan, Oklahoma. And actually, they put me in Oklahoma. One advantage in Oklahoma schools over Texas, you had junior high baseball, whereas in Texas, they wouldn't allow it. And that's a football thing. So I was in charge of the 7th, 8th, and 9th grade teams in Duncan, Oklahoma. And I stay in touch with those kids a lot too. But anyway, from Duncan, we won 2 state championships back to back in football. I coached football, and the head coach there was hired in Owasso, Oklahoma, which is a suburb. It's a 6A school, a suburb of Tulsa, and went there. And unfortunately, baseball wasn't available. They had baseball and very good. They've won state many, many times, but there wasn't a job open. So I didn't get to coach baseball there until I ended up out of that place, Owasso, 1985. I met my wife, married her, beautiful lady, a teacher also. In 1982, she was teaching in Owasso, and she was from West Texas, little town of Kermit outside of Odessa, and ended up in Plainview in 1985. And the rest is history. From Plainview, I went to Lufkin for 11 years, then back to Lubbock, Monterey for 10, and then retired at Highland Park in Dallas.
Okay, when you started in Plainview, were you the head? Did you start as a head coach for the baseball team, or were you coaching elsewhere?
Yes, sir. Interesting story there. I'm telling you, the Lord opens up doors for you, and you wonder, how did this happen? But I went to a convention, a football convention in Lubbock, another coach and I, when we were in Owasso, and I met this huge man in Heart 2 named Greg Sherwood, not knowing that he was a legend of West Texas football. Mm-hmm. He flies me out from Tulsa. I get on the plane. He flies me to Lubbock, picks me up. I spend 2 nights with him in Plainview. And John Hill was the previous baseball coach. And he stepped down, and he wanted me, Coach Sherwood, to be the head baseball coach, which that's what attracted me there. And coach offensive backs. I'd been a secondary coach, coach offensive backs in wing T, which I'd never been around in my life. Because in Oklahoma, we did everything that Barry Switzer and OU did. We ran the bone all the time, and then went to the veer. But anyway, so I locked on there with Coach Sherwood, and I only stayed 3 years. Not because I couldn't have stayed probably longer. Coach Parr came in, wanted me to stay. I started looking around the state, and lo and behold, ended up in way East Texas, Lufkin.
So this class was your last team to coach in Plainview?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Wow. See what you guys did? I was just saying, see what you guys did?
Ran
them out of
We ran them out of Plainview.
Hey, look at us.
We made them look so good. They wanted them all over the state.
What were you going to say, Wally?
Some of these guys were freshmen on the varsity. They were that good. Petey, Raymond, Willie.
And then later you can ask a question and I can answer later, but they were diamonds in the rough. I mean, I came in the first year, we didn't have a good year. I think we finished 10-16. And I said, that's not going to cut it. And I had people, great kids. I keep going back to seeing Toonie Parr playing and some of those.
Hey, wait, Coach, be honest. We were scrubs playing that year. It was just kind of like a bunch of guys out there playing. I enjoyed that team. It was funny. We had funny guys, but we weren't very good at baseball that year.
No, that's why I'm saying I love those guys that played that year. I mean, I remember them to this day. And who was first baseman? Barker. Barker, big old tall football. Yeah.
Brent Barker.
Barton. Yeah. And, so many of those guys. And I had a lot of these guys, Michael, that were coming up. And I played them knowing that they were going to be the future. And they set my career off in Texas, to be honest. They really did.
Good.
And Coach Oliver, you remember when Coach Oliver first came in, I mean, we didn't know him. And we used to be at baseball practice. And, of course, it's windy. So he'd be out there. I was in center field, and he'd be telling me stuff in center field. And I would always yell out, "What?" And I just kept yelling out, making it repeat itself over and over and over. And I had a do-rag on one day, and I kept saying that, and he got so mad, and he was like, "And take that do-rag off." He started yelling. I never forget that. I was just messing with him. Every time he'd say something, I'd go, "What you say?" and make him say it again. So we gave him a hard time, I think, a little bit that first year, too.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And I was old school. I'm old school. I was raised old school where football coaches grabbed your mask and that kind of stuff. Today you'd be fired. And that's, I think, one reason with our
That's
society.
Coach Bill.
No, I got hit on the top of the head one time by Fred Oliver in the locker room because he wanted the lineman to give me more time on the freshman football team to throw the ball. But I'm the one that got hit. Right after he kicked a trash can about 3 feet in the air.
I've mellowed since then, Ronnie.
Did anyone know that it was Coach Oliver's first head coaching job? Because I didn't.
No,
I didn't either.
I didn't find that out till years later.
You probably would have thought, what does this do? Why did he hire him?
No, you let a 5'6", 125-pound me play. I wasn't questioning anything.
Well, guys, Willie told us last week that we asked him who did he look up to, and a lot of them from like class of 78 and 79. Played guys like Irvin Davis, the Mosley brothers, Kenneth Story, Patrick Brown. So I'm going to start with you, Pete. Well, when I ask you guys, don't all you guys say Willie, because I mean I'm pretty sure you guys had other people besides William Smith with you, Willie. But Pete, did you look up to anyone you were younger? Not really. I'm just talking about in Plainview area or major league. Doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, there were several major leaguers that I liked and watched, but my oldest brother was pretty salty, and I really enjoyed. I didn't get to watch him based on the age difference that we had. I didn't get to see him play high school baseball, so I got to see him look older in his life. But he was so slick with his feet and his fielding, and just watching him just made me want to be better every time. Just watching how good he was, so I would definitely put my oldest brother out there.
I think I played with. What was his name?
Mike. Mike was my oldest. I had Mike, Tony.
Tony Hall. I think I played. He graduated in '81.
Tony was 80 and Tony was 80 and Chris was 79.
Okay, no. There was another Holland guy I thought he played he played or graduated in '81, but okay, my bad. Wally, what about you, man?
I'm like Pete. My brothers were always my heroes growing up, and we had a bit of an age difference as well. But if they weren't talking about baseball, people in town were telling me about my oldest brothers. And so they, for me, were the guys that I looked up to. Adam, the one closest to me, he basically was the second dad to me. So we were always working out. He was always working with me. And so then I get to watch him play softball a lot because he was playing softball at the time. And he's also he is a good athlete. I'd watch him play basketball. It didn't matter. And he was always really good. And I always looked up to him. But my brothers were probably my heroes. I will say this, I'm along the lines of Willie, that growing up playing baseball, we watched the guys that were just older than us. And so they were the Ronnie Ortegons and John. I call him John Joe. I know he's John now, but back then he was John Joe Perez. And so we hang out in the neighborhood. And so we play baseball. We play tape ball. And I know, Willie, on yours, you said that there was no age difference when you got together on the sandlot, right? You just, whoever showed up played, and you just hung out. And so getting to watch those guys, especially in Little League, I know y'all talk about Little League being a big deal in Willie's podcast, but watching Little League back in the day, that was everything to us. Watching those guys and playing, being in All-Stars, and then they qualified to go to Waco to the state tournament. I mean, they set the standard for kids like us because we just thought that's what you do. You make All-Stars, and then you qualify for state, you go to Waco. I didn't even know where Waco was. I just know that that's where you're supposed to go when you're 11 and 12 years old, to the state tournament. So those guys, the guys before us also were heroes of mine.
Cool.
Well, really, I love that you said that because, we're 5 years older than you guys. And, coming up in Plainview, for such a small town, there have been so many great athletes that have come out of Plainview. Yep. Guys, all of you had some big shoes to fill. Those of you with older brothers, older cousins, but even just other people in our hometown that were just excellent athletes in whatever sport they played at. You had a lot of role models and people to emulate and look up to. And, I think having that made you strive for more. And that's a great thing that y'all had. So thank you for bringing that up.
Cool.
Yeah, sure.
What about you, Ronnie?
Mine was a little different because, I mean, like I said, my family wasn't much into athletics growing up, and we did a lot of, I was expected to be, working and things like that. So my games were important to me. My practice time was important to me. And, as far as like somebody that I looked up to professionally was Dale Murphy. I'm a big Atlanta Braves fan. I always have been.
Yes.
And as far as, the influences on me for locally, the Vera family, I know Paul's not very much older than me, but Peter was my coaching, 13-year-old up. And, those guys made a big difference in my life. So, I would say that family, I didn't get to do a lot of stuff as far as spending a lot of time down at the Little League and things like that. So I didn't see a lot of the older players, but the guys that, B. Terrell, those kind of guys, they made a big influence on me growing up.
Cool. Be another class of 83 and Peter. Awesome. Ray, you did mention your uncle.
Yeah, I mentioned my uncle. I'll start. Lisa, I'm glad you kind of mentioned that. When we were growing up, we didn't have like a lot of, there wasn't cable, right? So the guys that we looked up to were the guys local, right? And I'll throw a name out there. I never saw him play, but he coached you guys. Coach, my uncle was Billy Carthel, right? He played Major League Baseball, right? Yeah. So I know he helped a lot of guys in Plainview. Well, coming up, when I was watching your guys' podcast with Willie, you know, they were playing at Sacred Heart. Well, Wally and me and growing up as kids, we were at Lakeside, or we were playing beside you know, my biggest influence in playing, or the biggest person that had an impact on my life was Ronnie, was Ortegon, was Ronnie, right? Because I was left-handed, you know, and when I was coming up, that was kind of who I emulated. You know, while he talked about me and Petey and Willie, I don't remember us playing JV or even I think I might have played freshman football, but we moved up to varsity whenever I didn't play, obviously, but I was on that team with like Tony Ortiz, you know, Terrence Washington, and those older Raymond Rivera. But I remember you were talking about with Willie that you coached some junior Babe Ruth, right, Michael? You know, you guys came up, or you were playing, you know, coaching the younger guys, right?
Yeah, I coached.
You know,
It was me, B, and Peter.
Right.
I think,
and so, well, on
yeah.
my side, Ronnie was my coach one year. Him and somebody else, I couldn't remember the other, and it might have been Jerry Vera or Peter Vera. It might have been, or I don't remember who.
Peter.
And John Joe, I thought. Coach.
John Joe, there you go, and it was John Joe. So, growing up, those guys, like Wally said, it was like being in Plainview, everybody went to the ballpark in the summertime, right? And we watched these guys come up, and we were like, you know, kind of like LeBron James said, I'm just a kid from Akron. Well, we saw these kids from Plainview going up to the next level. So that showed us that we could have the opportunity to get out of Plainview and play at the next. I mean, we were that, you know, if we could make it to the next level. And I'll tell you a funny story. You know, when Ronnie was my coach, I told Willie this yesterday that we were I don't know if we were going to scrimmage those guys or something, but Willie and them were on the other side of the field, and Ronnie came up to me and said, "Hey, come here, I need to talk to you." And I was warming up because I think we were going to scrimmage him. He goes, "You see that guy over there?" And it was just one guy, and he was hitting these dongs. I mean, he was just ripping the ball out. I said, "Yeah." He said, "You're just as good or better than him." You know, and I didn't want to tell Ronnie, but I was like, "Bro, what are you smoking? You must be out of your damn mind, bro." And he was pointing at Willie. And I was like, "Come on, dude." You know, but I didn't want to say that. You know, I'm a kid. And I know it now. I know he was just trying to, you know, encourage me. But, you know, as I was coming up, you know, he was a big, you know, he was probably the biggest, besides my Uncle David, they were the biggest. He had the biggest impact baseball wise on me growing up as a kid, is because I saw those guys, and you wanted to, you know, I respected his game and the way they went about their business on the field. And I wanted to, that was kind of how I emulated when I was coming up through Little League. Cause you know, we did the same thing, like Wally said, you know, those guys that came up with Coach Oliver, this class, we went to Waco. We went, I think, in Babe Ruth, if I'm not mistaken, guys, you can remind me, but didn't we go
Mineral
to
Wells.
baseball too?
Mineral Wells.
Right? So we were, that team, we had a little bit of success at each, you know, coming up. So by the time we got up into high school, we just needed somebody like Coach Oliver to kind of, like you said, that diamond in the rough, you know, to polish that diamond off for us. We were still like coal, and somebody to get us organized to play together as a team, you know, because we were all friends and grew up together, you know, and so that was a big part of my you know, growing up, you know, is those two guys.
Oh, that's it's good. What about you, Mr. Keller?
Well, it's funny. I joked earlier about my parents putting me in baseball because they couldn't stand me. But the reality is my parents had a real laissez-faire approach to anything I did. Like, they didn't push me to play sports. They didn't push me to go to college. For me, it was like, I just was lucky enough I built some early relationships that, hey, I'm going to go play baseball. Okay, I'll go too. For me, it was a social thing. That was the way I got connected. And so it was both players that I played with. There wasn't really, I didn't watch a lot of baseball on TV growing up. But it's almost like the cobbler's kids don't have shoes. Like, my dad was a preacher. He spent so much of his time pouring into other people that, for me, that was my place to get poured into. And I was very fortunate early on. I had a little league coach, Jerry Johnson, that was just a stud godly man that poured into me. And funny story about that, I used to always catch the ball between my legs. The ball would be rolling in the outfield, and I would reach around and catch it in between my legs, just showboating. And he's like, Lee, you got to catch it in front. So I'd try it in front and miss it. He's like, go back the other way, catch it between your legs. I catch it every time that way. But I just had some great coaches along the way, Coach Oliver, and I'm not saying that because he's on here, but he just good men who made me want to be a better person. And like, I wouldn't have even gone to college if I hadn't had friends in my life that just was like, hey, where are you going to college? And I just, I guess I'm supposed to go to college. But it was, for me, it was so much about the guys, like the guys on this Zoom call right now, just that just made me want to be there. You know, I think about JV baseball, you know, Coach Sigler and Ronnie and I just laughing our butts off at Coach Sigler's awesome, you know, hit and run call sign. And signal. I mean, like but it was just the social aspect of it that made me want to be better. And I just wanted to go have fun. And so that was really it for me, was more about the people I was around, not necessarily that I wanted to be like somebody.
That's cool.
Yeah, not all of us went up as freshmen to varsity, so we got to get some interesting some interesting stories from JV baseball and the coaches that we had.
Some nice Levi Garrett plug in the with Raj Horan in the dugouts.
So let me ask you guys this. You know, when I was in Little League and Ronnie and John Joe, those guys, Peter, the boundary line was Quincy. So it was like the Hispanics and the African Americans were National League, and then the Anglos were, you know, in the American League. Was that still the boundary?
Yes.
Don't forget about
Eventually it
forget about
changed.
Seth Ward.
That's crazy, isn't it? That when I told my son that, I felt like I was. When I told my son that, I'm like, I lived in those days. Like that was like.
Yeah. We didn't go across the tracks. We stayed in Seth Ward. Seth Ward.
Seth Ward.
Yeah,
Seth
we didn't
Ward,
go. We stayed down
we
there.
Didn't go, we
played
didn't go
fields.
past 24th. You know, we were out there on Kalia, man.
Okay.
You know what? I don't know if y'all. Y'all remember the one year in All Stars, the American League. They had Toonie Parr on there, and they just said, "Oh, we're gonna beat y'all because we got this black guy, Toonie Parr." It's like, come on, man, bring him on, bring him on. But that American and National League, that was some of the best, you know, rivalry. But you know, the whole town came out. That was a party time. It was a time that you wanted to make sure you shine, and that's the time I look forward to. From the time I was, 9. Like I wanted to be on that bright stage and get to play under those lights and to be on that all-star team. And I was kind of mad they didn't let me make it at 10, but I mean, we wanted to be under those bright lights in that Little League All-Star game.
I think
I missed some of that.
Even the city championship was a big deal.
Yeah.
The city championship. I remember Paul Vera hitting a home run to win the city championship, right?
Yeah,
big deal. With the Braves, did he beat the Yankees, or was it wasn't the Pirates? Was it?
Oh, I think that was that.
Because would have been National
the left-hander.
I don't know. I just know he sent it into the parking lot, and it was like a big deal. Like everybody was out there. And,
it was a big.
I just remember Paul doing that.
Do you guys remember like when they would pick those, they put everybody in the stands and they would call your name and you would come down, and so like everybody was there. You were like, oh man, you're just like nervous, hoping, man, I hope they call my name to come down into the field and stuff. And it was like a freaking
I was
rock
still
star.
sitting in the stands.
I want to hear about this outfield conversation that somebody mentioned earlier.
Oh my gosh!
You know, look, I'm telling me and Lee was out there, so we can tell the story how we remember. Well, what happened was when we get off the bus, we drive up to Amarillo High. We get off the bus. They have
here we go.
They have all of this construction and stuff. Yeah, we doing it. Let's do it.
Oh my gosh.
They have all this construction stuff going on, and when I get off the bus, I'm like, okay, I don't want to walk way over there to all that stuff. I'll go later. I go to the restroom later. So we get out there, and I don't know what inning it was, but we're
It
out
wasn't
there.
very long.
It wasn't very
was like
long.
the second inning, and I'm out there. No, it was probably
No,
like
it was
the
before
third
that.
Yeah.
No,
It was
because
early.
that was my last at bat. I think I hit the home run. So it was right before that at bat when I hit the home run. So I go
Okay,
out
all
there.
right.
I'm in the outfield, and all of a sudden I got to use the restroom, and I'm talking to Lee, and I'm like, Lee, man, I got to go to the restroom. And
No, hang on,
I'm
hang on,
walking
hang on,
around.
hang on, hang on. Hang on. We just finished throwing the ball for warm up. Like the inning hadn't even started yet.
Yeah.
I turn around, I throw the ball in, and Willie goes, Lee. I'm like, come on, Willie. No, man. We got 3 outs to go, man. It'll be easy. It's the weak part of their lineup. We get 3 up, 3 down. We'll be in. He's like, no, man, I got to go bad. And I'm like, no, just so. I think maybe first pitch. Ball. I think the ball get hit to you on that first one, Willie.
No, I think I know. I don't remember, but I know we got 2 quick outs. We got 2 quick outs.
But after both outs, you're like, I gotta pee. No, Willie, you can make it, man. You can make it. We'll be all right.
What I hear is him screaming for strikes. Was it Renee pitching? Because you were like, come on, Renee.
I think so.
That's when I became aware that there was a problem out here.
We got those 2 quick outs, and I'm yelling about that, and then I'm telling Lee, and Lee goes, "Hey man, just turn around and pee." I'm like, "Dude, that's Bell Street. There's like all these cars going by. I can't pee." I'm yelling, and we get those 2 quick outs, and I think the guy fouled off. It seemed like he fouled off 4 pitches in a row. He had 2 strikes on him. He started fouling them off, and I'm telling Lee. And finally, I just spread my legs. I'm out there in the outfield, and I looked at Lee, and I said, "Lee, I'm pissing on myself," and he's dying laughing. And I'm like, "Lee, I'm pissing on myself."
Did you have a cup on?
No, I was an outfielder, so I didn't wear a cup.
Hey,
no.
keep in mind,
Michael,
we had on
gray
gray
uniforms.
We had on all gray.
Oh shit!
Great.
You know you could have gotten the glove and put in front of you, right?
No,
But-
not when he was at the plate.
I was in center field. I was in center field, so I'm way out there. So I just was like, "Hey, man, I can't stop it now." I'm pissed. I think it was a pop up to end the inning. All I remember is I think I beat the second baseman off the field. I sprinted off the field so fast.
Well,
and then
you were
and
either,
I didn't even know what was going on because I'm in
either,
a full catcher's gear. I can't hear that stuff.
Well, and Willie's either first up or second up to start the next inning, so he didn't have time to do anything. So we get to the dugout, and we're like throwing water on him. Hey man, we'll make it look like you just spilled the water on you, man. And just trying to make it look like an accident or different kind of accident.
Okay,
yeah, they poured the water.
They
poured the water down. They poured the water down my jersey and on my pants, and so I was like, yeah. And then I step out the dugout, and Coach Oliver comes over to me, and he goes, "Man, you can't even tell." And then I was like feeling pretty good about myself, so I'm like, okay. And then he walks over there to third, and then I go up. I think somebody makes it out, and then I go up to the plate, and the umpire calls the first pitch really high. He calls it a strike. And then I step out of the box, and I hear somebody say, "Hey, Willie, aren't you potty trained?" And I step back out of the box, and I look at Coach Oliver, and I'm like, he lied to me. You can tell.
Well, that was, if you remember right, that was Tascosa's team up in the stands.
Yeah, I didn't remember who it was, but I know they were.
Let me set the tone. Go back, Michael. We were supposed to play this game on Friday the 2nd, April the 2nd. We get snowed out on April the 2nd. We have to go back on Monday the 5th. The scouts were there the 2nd. They weren't there on Monday. They didn't know we was going to turn around and play on a Monday. Amarillo High is throwing their draftee, Greg Jackson. And the third base dugout were the Sandies. And they had a lot of students in their stands right there where I'm in the coach's box. So I was hearing all kind of crap from them about Willie. And it proceeded. Jackson threw a fastball, of course, and Willie had all he could take from the crowd, and the rest is history.
Well, you remember it wasn't even the crowd really. It was the umpire, because remember we got a big lead and then they came back, and so the first pitch was a ball, and then the second pitch was way out and he called it a strike, and then the catcher got the ball and he stood up and he threw the ball back and he told the pitcher, "Hey, throw a fastball. He can't hit it." And I remember thinking, like, does this dude read the paper? Like, really? Like, you're just gonna do that? And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I think because the first at bat I had hit a ball off the wall. I mean, I hit it off the top of the fence, and I was like, okay, if this guy he's stupid enough to throw me a fastball right here, I'm gonna swing as hard as I can. And I had a lot bigger leg kick, and I think he was throwing about 88. So when he let that fastball go up, I mean, I just swung as hard as I could. And
dude, it's 36 years later. I'm still waiting for that ball to land. I've never seen a ball go that far. That was crazy. 585, something like that. I was nuts.
It was like 565.
I got the base.
I'll tell you guys. Even to this day, one of our classmates, her daughter went to Amarillo High, and when I was living in Amarillo back in the 90s, people, when they asked where I was from, they would say, "Hey, did you go to school with Willie?" I was like, "Yeah, we were best friends. We went to school together. We're classmates." They're like, "Man, dude, they still talk about that home run." And Bell Road wasn't like Bell Road is now. I mean, I had like Lee and these guys. I'd never seen anybody hit a ball that far ever in my life. Even to this day, it's like.
Didn't they have temporary fences at the time, and they had it like it was out like 525 to center field?
Well, Michael, I don't know if you played on that field, but it was the left field, the JV football field back up.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
It was 400 and like 445 feet to left field. And then from Bell Avenue was 6 lanes, and where those 90 degree, where those fences came together in center field, it was over 500 feet.
I swear it was 525.
Hit it right to that corner. He hit it a little bit to the right center field. So we know it went 480 some feet over the fence. And then I was close friends at the time with Amarillo sports writer Mark Ballou. And so he goes back out there the next day with a tape measure and measures it over to the backyard of that house, apartment, whatever it was. And then he called me at Plainview and told me the feet where it landed.
Oh. Well, that's pretty bad. But I want to know, did anybody sit with you on the way home? Like you pissed your pants.
Hey, Michael. Michael.
Yeah.
We did one better, man. That story never came out until Willie shared it on his own. We never told anybody.
We never said anything about that at all.
We retired.
That's kind of, guys.
That's a pretty good tight group, man.
Yeah, that's kind of like how we were with everybody. When I was watching, when you guys had Willie on by himself, and you talked to Lisa, was like, was there any egos? Or Willie was pretty. I don't know if we protected him, but I think he felt safe when he was in that diamond, right? Because we didn't treat him any different. He didn't treat us any different. I mean, growing up in Plainview, like Willie's mom and my dad, they all worked at Excel, right? And so we were like, I mean, growing up, nobody saw anybody on a higher level. We knew Willie was coming up, and Coach Oliver said, there's going to be people around watching him, but it never really affected us. Like, hey, these guys are here, we need to play better or whatever. It was just we made sure that that he was successful, and by him being successful allowed us to be successful in our own right. But it was never an ego thing, or these guys, we had everybody held each other accountable on that team. And I think that's what made it work, is that when somebody was getting off, or if I was doing something, Wally would always come up to me on the mound and say, hey man, we had a good defense, right? He said, hey man, just throw strikes, man, get some grounders. We got your back. And so it was never like, we had to depend on, one person or this person. It was always like Coach Oliver said, Lee came in, and it was always a team effort, but it was never, we never felt, or I didn't feel like the pressure was on us because Willie was playing on our teams. He was just he was our friend, and we were out there having fun with each other. You know?
That's cool,
I think
man.
I think it helps that we knew him by Weejay too, because that just kind
Yeah.
of not quite as important, right?
Hey, funny. I don't know if you remember, Raymond. At the end of the year, we go to Golden Corral, and we're all walking in there, and they got our big picture up there, and we're all looking at the picture, and I think it was Raymond. But Raymond goes, "Well, it was our team picture they had up there."
Yeah.
And Raymond looks up there and he goes, "Hey, Willie, he was the only black guy on our team." Everybody just started laughing.
We had RL on there, bro.
Well, he was a team manager, But it was funny. It was funny to all of us because we never thought about that, until we looked at the picture of that,
I want to say something about that because Michael, you asked earlier about the line of demarcation of Quincy Street and all that. Honestly, when I think about growing up in Plainview and going to Plainview High School and playing on this baseball team, I tell my kids all the time, like, I didn't even know there was a difference in color. Like, I really didn't. Like, it's just we're all friends. And I think about that now. I'm like, we were so blessed. Like, there wasn't a white side of town and or a white school and a black school, and it just that was our school, and we were just friends. Period. And I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome.
You said earlier about you playing baseball because it was a social thing for you, but really, I'm hearing your stories, and what jumps out at me is that you entered a brotherhood. And Coach Oliver, when you came to Plainview, you saw that. It's like, you saw that beyond camaraderie, that there was this real amazing bond and brotherhood with these young men that you had an opportunity to mold and to guide, and I think that's a testament to why you guys are all still friends today. I'm just really blown away. I'm so
Lisa, let me throw
a witness to this. It's just a real honor and a gift, and I want to point that out to you.
Lisa, those are good points you brought up because this team, I mean, I was at 6 different high schools in my 37-year career, but this team stands out not because they won my first victory in the state of Texas of several that followed, but we hear of racism today and all that kind of stuff. That was never in the picture. I mean, I didn't even think about that kind of stuff. I was coaching young men that I liked them because they had a passion for the game. They loved to play. That's all you can ask for as a coach. So, yeah, we had other black kids. Rod Williams, I stay in touch with. I was texting him this week. He was watching the Mavs, and Rod Williams lives not far from me here, Fort Worth, and Tooney. And, we had other black kids. Rod's cousin in left field. And that's another story. Yeah. And we had other black kids, a lot of Hispanic kids, and some white kids, but they were baseball players. And that's what counted. That's what counted.
That's what's great about. I was gonna say that's what's great about living in a small town.
Yeah.
You have all the different races, as one playing together. Not like here in Houston. I mean, you're gonna find some areas predominantly white and African American or Hispanic. The larger city. So yeah, I love growing up in Plainview. So, are you gonna say, Ronnie?
I think our parents too. Over the years, as we've gotten older, Coach and I, we've had a relationship with Coach, outside of the game, and as we've gotten older as adults, and I think our parents too, man, were really involved in those teams. Like my dad would go and help refurbish Wally's dad, and so they trusted Coach Oliver, and I'm sure they had conversations with Coach, like all of our parents did. Say, hey, if these boys get out of line, you got to do what you got to do, and if they didn't do it, get it at home, and so I think they trusted Coach with us, and to mold us into these guys, and if we got in trouble or anything, they'd be like, hey, they talk to our parents, and then our parents would sit us down and say, hey, you guys need to get your act together so we can to be successful with this team. So I think they really they trusted and liked Coach Oliver a lot. I know my dad still to this day talks about him all the time.
You know what? I think with Coach Oliver coming in, I think a couple of things that he did to kind of, I mean, we were close, but I think it was a few things that he did to kind of not only bring us together, but to get us to believe in him as well. And one of the things was, if y'all remember, I think I left my pants one time. And I think
the ones you pissed in.
No. I left my pants.
I would have left them too, man.
No, I left my pants. I think it was against Tascosa.
It was.
And so I think the guys were thinking Coach Oliver was gonna give me some pants, give somebody else's pants, and let me in so I could play. And Coach Oliver was like, okay, and I was kind of looking and going like, okay, that's it. He's like, yeah, okay, well, I'll get back with you kind of. And then we was about to start the game. He was like, you ain't playing. And I think that set the tone that, he didn't treat me any different. I forgot my stuff. He's not giving me anything else. I didn't play. But then I think it might have been the next year against Tascosa too. We ended the game on that controversial play where I think it was Stan still in third or something, and the umpire called the guy out at third. I think it was me. He said I interfered with the runner catching the ball, and so they called a double play or something, and they ended the game. And I remember us standing. I was still standing at third. We were still in the dugout. Everybody else was still leaving. Coach Oliver was still standing there, and he got heated, and the umpire was walking off. And I don't know what the umpire said to Coach Oliver, but I mean, man, he sprinted out there chasing that umpire. And then when he got on the bus, he told us, that he was this close for never coaching baseball again because he was gonna punch the umpire.
He followed that umpire to his car.
Yeah, I think that stuff like that, it started getting us to believe in him. And another thing for me was we would go to Abilene every year, and I don't know if y'all guys remember it, but we pull up and we get off this yellow bus, and we're getting off and we're standing there, and Coronado pulls up, and this looked like the most beautiful charter bus you ever seen. It just looked great, and they got off the bus, and we were like, man, those guys suck, and they come here on a charter bus, and Coach Otter was like, yeah, we're never coming on that bus again, on a yellow bus again. And from that point on, we had charter buses, and I think he did that stuff. It helped us believe not only in ourselves, we believed in ourselves, but in him as a leader.
Yeah.
Well, can I say something real quick? I'm not sure I would have ever played in high school if Coach Oliver wouldn't have came in, because I did not play as a freshman because of things that I observed, I guess, that I didn't like. And so I'm not sure I would have played if they would not have changed, I guess, head coaches at the time. And so throughout all that time, once he came in, things changed for me, and I bought into the program, and he's been a great influence ever since that. I had a coaching career, 29 years, and he helped me every step of the way. So from that point on as a sophomore all the way up until now, if that change wouldn't have been made, I'm not sure how differently things would have turned out.
Yeah, that's the same for me. That's what I said. I mean, when I showed up my sophomore year to talk to Coach Hagen, was coaching JV baseball at that time, and I said, "When are we getting started?" He said, "You're not." He said, "You're going go see Coach Oliver. You're going up to varsity." And when I thought, this guy doesn't know me. I don't know if he's going to give me a chance. I mean, I didn't. And so the fact that Coach Oliver always, even when I was messing up, still gave me a chance, like he said, because he was building something. But something I always remember is one of those games in Amarillo. It seemed to always happen in Amarillo. Another lesson taught us is to be grateful. Because was it Willie? Somebody said, he said, okay, boys, now we're going to go eat somewhere, and then he's giving us the rundown, but said where we're going to eat. And somebody complained. Somebody went, oh, man, we're going there again. And then we got the starving kids in Africa speech after that. Only stopped in, man. You're a kid. And so that's when I learned one of those lessons about just be grateful for, for what you have. But but like I said, Coach, I didn't know that was your first head coaching job, and I didn't know the secrets. I didn't.
I couldn't have been blessed more to my first one to be with you guys. But going back to the pant issue with Willie, I think Coach Feaster was driving the bus.
Yes, sir.
We're coming up. We're coming up about Tulia or somewhere, and I always tell them, all right, boys, get dressed. We're a few miles from Amarillo. Get dressed. And so Coach Feaster's looking in the rearview mirror, and I'm sitting up front. He says, Coach, here comes Willie. So, oh, okay. So Willie comes up and said, Coach, I forgot my pants. I said, oh, you did? Well, everybody in the back are saying, Coach, I'll give him mine. I'll give him mine. I said, no, you won't. You didn't forget yours. He did. So we set him, like Willie said, we set him during that game. I'm praying over there we better win. And so the next day in the Amarillo paper, Mark Ballou wrote in there why Willie sat. That Coach Oliver set him because he forgot his pants. And that wasn't the only time in my career. And every time one was at Monterey, pitcher by the name of Jamal Hamilton. And the other one was a pitcher at Lufkin, Chris Silbach. They both forgot parts of their uniforms. And all three of those guys were drafted. And Jamal, Monterey, I ran him 10 miles that next week for forgetting those pants because all those scouts were there and wanted to know why I wasn't pitching. Oh, Coach, can't you just pitch him, borrow somebody else's pants? I said, that's not how the way this thing works.
Hey, Coach, he told me you went a step further, though, than you did me. I just stood in the dugout. He told me you made him sweep the dugout. After everybody went out every inning, he had to sweep out the dugout.
Yeah, I got him a broom, and I said, all right, you're going to sweep the dugout from dirt from the cleats every inning.
Hey, Coach, when you were coaching in Monterey, was Coach Magel still alive?
Oh, yeah, he's still alive today. He's in his 90s.
Oh, is he? Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I mean, that was, I assume you spoke with him while you were coaching there? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We had him out when I went to Monterey. We had him out one night to honor him. And, it's one of those things, if you can't beat them, join them. And that was the one thing I regretted my whole time at Plainview. We could not beat those freaking Plainsmen.
Well, like I was told you guys earlier, we beat him in the doubleheader first time Plainview's done it.
That's
well,
awesome.
I went to junior college. There's a couple of the guys that played on that team at Howard, and they told me when they got back to Lubbock, Coach Magel says, everybody hit the field. They ran for hours until they were crawling to the showers. I mean, he was that pissed that we beat him.
The reason I got that job at Monterey, and that was another blessing by the Lord. I'm at Lufkin for 11 years and a lot of success there. We went to state twice, 92, 95, got beat both times. But so Coach Sherwood calls me, said, Coach Magel's retiring. You want this job? You ought to apply. So I did. And so I got the job, and everybody thought I was crazy following Coach Magel, the winningest coach at the time in the state of Texas.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I said, well,
little side note to that, Michael, when Wally called me and told me that Coach Oliver was going to the dark side. I was like, man, how could he go over to the freaking Lubbock, Monterey, dude? At least go to Coronado. They were at least little. He was going to the.
Coronado always had their noses up in the air.
Well, Coach Dudley was there when we played, and he played under Magel. But hey, quick question, Coach? Did you coach two brothers, the Mize's brother, John, and I forgot his younger brother's name, but John Mize?
John Mize?
Yes.
No.
Did you?
Okay.
Okay. No. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, Lisa.
Well, I'm going to go back to Coach Oliver. I love you sharing the story and the fact that, You have these leadership qualities at this young age, and that's what garnered the respect of your players, but it's also what created buy-in, not only from them, but buy-in from the parents. And being in a small community, you need the buy-in from the parents. The community supports all the sports teams.
That is one thing. Yes, ma'am. That at Plainview, I don't ever remember having one called set down conference with a parent because their kid wasn't playing. Ever. I never had any of that kind of issue. Now I had it at some other schools I went to.
Highland Park.
Yeah, I was gonna say Highland Park.
Yeah. And I don't want to elaborate so much on that, but I can a little bit here later. But that was a great place too, I'll tell you. Everywhere I went, I coached a diversity of kids. In Owasso, it was almost all white class. I come to Plainview, it's pretty good mixture. I go to Lufkin, it's 35% black. I coached secondary on varsity. I had one white kid in my secondary almost the whole time I was there. I come, from Lufkin back to Monterey, and I had a mixture, Hispanic, white at that time. So I was Monterey from 99 or 2000 to 2009. And so I hit that. And so I've been blessed to see all these different types of kids, but those parents at Plainview, my wife will tell you today, she wrote this a while ago. She came in here and wrote this. Those are my favorite. Those are my favorite ever.
You know what, Coach Oliver, I would say this. One of the things that helped buy in, and I know we all agree on this, is Miss Oliver. I mean, Coach Oliver's a part, but Miss Oliver was a big part of that on the side. I mean, she loved on everybody. She fixed food for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, she always made you feel great, like you was the best thing around, So she was a big part of that as well, having us over to the house and feeding us and just always loving on us. And that's still to this day,
Look, I knew when Coach Oliver was really, really pissed at me, I knew that Miss O would talk to him for me.
That's right. That's right. She would. And she'd try to convince me to be easy on them. And said, don't do that. I said, now hold it. And like Willie, I'm sure most of you know this. A lot of people don't. Willie goes and signs with the Astros. And where does he live for 2 years in a row in the offseason? In Lufkin, Texas, in Coach Oliver's house.
Ah.
I didn't think anything about it. He lived with me his first year. His second year, he comes back and says, "Hey, Coach, I got a wife. Can she live with you?" and we did. And I got her a job as a substitute at the school in Lufkin. Yeah. And he worked out with the high school boys and stayed in shape.
Did did Willie sign a contract with you? Get a little percentage off his? No.
No.
Hey, Pete. So I know we've been kind of touched on some memories of some of the games. Can you think of another fond memory of this 88 team? Class of 88?
Are you talking to me, Michael, or
no, Pete?
Petey.
Okay.
Petey.
I lost you guys for a second. Go ahead, say again.
I was gonna say we've touched some stories. Can you share any other stories that you can remember about this great?
A big one at Midland.
Well, a funny thing. Ronnie said, Ronnie and Wally both said they weren't sure what would have happened if Coach Oliver hadn't been there. Ronnie would have been in prison. Wally would be a backup dancer on the Shania Twain tour. Pretty much.
Wow.
Story. I mean, we had some great times. The great baseball played, some great memories made on and off the field. The deal with Willie, outfield, in Midland. So that was a big day for me. I had a great day, but the best thing about that was not necessarily my performance, but the performance of the defense, because we had struggled in the field. We had made some errors that had hurt us along the way. So the play of the guys behind me, I didn't throw the ball hard enough to throw it by anybody. I only saw one guy throw competitively that threw slower than me, and I called him school zone, and he laughed about it. And I said, dude, you can't throw the ball hard enough to throw it past, the school. You can't throw it over 20. And he meant it. But long story short, I couldn't throw the ball by anybody, but we had great defense that day. Everything that was hit, everybody got to it. And just, I don't know, for me, that whole, if you look at that picture from the, that was in the paper, it's drawn. I think the coolest thing about that is Willie had been kicked out of the game. We all thought we were, oh shit, we're fixing to get it handled to us now. And if you look at the excitement on Willie's face, it lets you know he's just one of us. He was a superstar and we all knew it. But if you look at the picture and his reaction, it meant as much to him as it did to the rest of us. That to me was pretty cool. I thought that was cool.
Nice. Michael, what he didn't tell you is that he pitched the game of our lives.
9 innings.
He pitched 9 innings, and we needed that game.
And he hadn't pitched since the tournaments.
Yeah. And so he hadn't thrown a whole lot, and he got thrown in there game 3 of the series. And Plainview had come up to by district the years before that, right at by district, and got put out by Abilene Cooper year after year. We were our junior year. We played Abilene Cooper. And we played them a great game at Dunlaw Field in Lubbock. And they were, as Willie had said, #1 team in the country with pro prospects. And we played them our junior year. We gave them all they could take. They beat us, but we still lost again in by district. And we thought, we've got to do it this year. We've got to get past that. So it's game 3 down in Midland. We won 1, they won 1. Problem is that night, that Saturday, and here we are in Midland. And we're supposed to win that game and get home. And we lost the first game. So now you got a doubleheader. So now we've got to win that 3rd game. And Petey gets the ball that day, and he throws a gem. And we played 9 innings.
That was a very hostile environment.
Very hostile.
Yeah. I've got a story.
Yeah. Petey, we go back to the hotel real quick. We go back to the hotel. And I'm walking, I'm pacing outside the rooms, and I said, we got to figure out who we're going to throw. I said, they love the fastball, and I know a guy that can keep them off balance, off speed. And our plan was to go with him. Our plan was to really go 3 or 4 innings with him. I think then bring in Renee for 2 or 3, and then maybe if Stan had any left in him to mop it up. But Petey kept saying, no, I'm going to go the whole way. He didn't know it was going to be 9 innings, but he goes the whole way. And I'm going to tell you, hostile environment, if Midland had been in our district, I'm not so sure we'd had bench clearing brawl sometime during our season. They were that type of people at that point.
Every time that I had to go to the backstop to get a ball that whole series, I was getting spit on.
Yeah, there were like 1,200 fans there in Christensen Field, and a quick story on this. We're not supposed to say names. I don't guess me. Their top pitcher was their stud, and he had like a 0.51 ERA in district, and he was unhittable. And our guys knocked him out that first game, and then it started raining. And we didn't finish that game, 2 more days. And we end up beating him, but he comes back in relief in that 3rd game. And I quoted in the paper that, our kids were fired up and licking their chops when they saw him come in. Well, that got in the newspapers, and his mother wrote me a nasty letter. Because I said that, and I called him the franchise, and I said, our boys took care of him. And I was just telling the truth, but she didn't take that too well.
Do you still have the letter?
I have the article. I don't have the letter.
So hey, Willie,
Coach Sherwood took it.
Okay, hey Willie, you mentioned last week that you guys had prom. Was this the game when you guys had prom that Saturday?
So this is the game we had prom, and this is the one I told you my fondest memory of high school. It was that game, and it was just that moment. As I said, I was sitting in the dugout after I got kicked out. I'm sitting in the dugout and I'm kind of like, man, this is it. And those guys, I don't remember who said it, but I heard somebody say, hey, man, we can't let Willie go out like this. This can't be his last game. And man, I was just, to this day, it makes me emotional because those guys thought enough to do that, but everybody stepped up. I mean, in that environment, and then to have Lee Keller come up, who, is not, as he said, he wasn't some baseball player that was, he was in the group, he was part of us. And for him to get a hit in that moment, and then we end up winning and Petey pitching the way he did, man, I was just overexcited just for those guys as well, because I mean, they did it without me. And that meant a lot, just to see those guys, do it on that stage in that moment. And, when nobody could say, hey, Willie did this, or it was because of Willie, it was because of them, and that was, again, that was one of the best memories I ever had, in sports and with these guys.
Well, that's
We
cool.
drive-
We
We drive back from Midland and we get off the charter bus in the parking lot to go into the prom. And I still see it in my mind today. We hop off that bus and there are streamers and signs and all this stuff. And Wally's parents were right there to greet us. A lot of others were, but right off that bus, I remember them coming to me and thanking me. And then we go we break up the prom. We get up on stage and all.
Well, I was just going to ask you guys that. That's why I brought it up, that you guys make it to your prom, but so I guess y'all did.
I think we drove. It seemed like we was going about 90. I mean, yeah, our bus driver was excited. Man, he was pushing it.
Well, I was going to say, you guys would have had some pissed off dates. So
when we pulled up, there was people already arriving for prom.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And they delayed it a little bit because 3 of the people that were supposed to speak at prom were on the baseball team.
Okay.
Right. Hey, so I got to tell you a funny story that
Michael, there's an article here I'm looking at now by one of your podcast guys the other day, Danny Andrews.
Yes, sir.
And he talks about a historic thriller at J.C. Park. And he talked about all the records of this team that no team in memory to him and past had ever gone by district. They'd won the most games ever in the Plainview history. The most people to ever watch a game at J.C. Park, either the core game or Midland. I can't remember which one. It's Core, I think. Because Core had a stud pitcher too. And Rene Preston battled 11 innings, and we lost that one. So we had to go to game 3 there too. So these guys set a lot of records. And we get to DeSoto in the regional, and we lose a 1-run game, 4-3, and then 5-2 to knock us out. But we were that close to continuing on.
Well, that's pretty good. Pete, you were going to say something, Petey?
Yeah. So I got a great story from the Midland game. That hostile crowd was giving it to me on the mound, and I mean, just nonstop. The trash talking was some of the best I'd ever experienced. There were a couple of times I even stepped off the mound and started laughing at some of the stuff that was being said. So after they're giving it to me, I see my mom stand up and walk over to a bunch of them sitting there. And I thought, well, I don't know what's going to happen, because my mom didn't say a whole lot. But she marches over there. I see her lean down and start talking to them. And then she walks off. And the shit talking stopped. There was nothing else being said from that crew. And I'm like, man, I don't know what they said. But, once we get home, we go to prom the next morning. I said, hey, Mom, I said, I noticed you walked over to talk to those guys. What did you say? And she said, well, I cleared up a couple of things for them. First and foremost, I told them you were my son. I said, okay. And she said, and then I cleared up your sexual preference for them, so they knew which gender you liked. And she just left it at that. She's like, yeah, I cleared up your sexual. He just walked off, and I'm like, holy cow. So she just pretty much gave it to him, and that shut them, at least that crew, they shut up from that point on. But that was one hell of a hostile crowd. They gave it to us pretty good.
Damn, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Your mom. So guys, you guys have been, last year, I'm going to send you guys, I'm going to text you guys a picture. Last year, I put a photo in LinkedIn, and Coach Oliver, you saw it. It was our 40th reunion last year, and me and my teammates, my senior teammates, Peter Vera, Andrew Dunlap, Jesse Solis, B. Terrell, and Brian Harrington, we all took a photo our senior year, and then at our reunion Saturday night, I got all the guys together. Luckily, we're all still living, and tried to emulate that photo, and I put it side by side 40 years later. And so I just sent that to you guys.
Yeah, it's a cool
So,
photo.
You guys, though, being so close is very, I want to know, how did it start? With you, Coach, or with one of you guys? How did it start?
About
When did it
reunion
start?
wise?
No,
Our
y'all's
reunion?
reunion. Yes.
Yeah,
I think the
Raymond and
first one
I
we
kinda-
did was when Coach was fixing to set his career wins in
Winnings,
Highland Park, wasn't it?
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
That was the first.
I wasn't a part. For some reason, I didn't get to make that. And then those guys got together. I think Miss Oliver, right, was the one that got you guys together,
It
or
was,
who?
Yeah,
well,
and
Mecca
my oldest daughter,
contacted me,
Mecca.
Mecca.
and then me and Mecca kind of
yeah,
tried to contact as
Yeah.
many people as we could to get it done. We made it. I mean, we did make
what it was,
a lot of them
and
made
let me
it.
say this because it's so cool. I was at Highland Park and I'd won my 500. Well, I keep saying the teams had won me my 500th win, and so this was in district, so we're having a non-district game then on a Saturday just to continue to have games. And so the people there at Highland Park wanted to recognize that and give me this plate, a home plate with all the names on all the stuff for the 500th victory. And so I said, well, I really don't want to do that. I said, we're in a game, and I don't want to disrupt the players and their thought process, and we got to win 501 here. And so he says, yeah, we're going to have it. This is the head of the booster club. We're going to have it with or without you. And because he knew the Plainview boys were involved. And so I said, okay. So we take in and out. They come in, they're in the dugout. They have a microphone. They call me the home plate. They awarded me the plate and all that. And I'm getting ready to walk back to the dugout to start the game. And they said, hold it. We got one other surprise for you. Said, this team, Highland Park, won you your 500th. And the team that won you your first one is here.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm not hearing him right. I mean, I'm going, what? I look over there, and through our dugout, here come like 12 guys. One of them was my manager, and 12 guys come out, and I'm in tears. I mean, I don't know what to think. I mean, it's got to me. And they had them hid back there in the parking lot, and they came out, and Stan was there. It wasn't just the seniors; it was whoever showed up, and they all hugged me, and I hugged them, and then we got to get the game started. And this is the funniest. I said, "Hey, you guys are going to stay, aren't you?" "Yeah, we're going to watch the game." So they go up in stands with their wives, and some of them with kids, and so forth. And so get over there and get ready to start the game. And my players, honest to God, come and said to me, "Coach, how old are you?" After looking at these guys, they're in their 40s. "Coach, how old are you?" I said, "Just get out there and play, would you?" And then we all went to a Mexican food place afterwards and had a few drinks and laughed and told stories. And that started that little get together. And then
What year? What year was this?
That was March 19th of 2010, my first year at Highland Park.
14 years ago. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then they had when Coach got inducted into the Texas High School Hall of Fame, some of the guys went to the ceremony that he had there.
Yes, they did.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
And
that was
Michael, I don't know if you know this, but in Plainview, the kids in the 90s, the guys that played in the 90s started this all baseball reunion. They actually played a game.
I played the first one.
Did you play it? Okay.
I played in the first one. I couldn't pitch for crap.
You played in the first one?
Yes, I did.
How did you? I couldn't even. I wouldn't even think about doing that. Like I would hurt myself. That's amazing.
I forgot how old I was, but I
Good
tried to
on
picture
you.
Kevin
Yeah.
Mosley. I kept
Raymond, we need to
bouncing it.
get all together at that
Well,
thing.
and then what happened was I sent Coach Oliver that flyer, and he's like, "Well, when are they having this, and who's playing it?" And that kind of got this ball rolling of us having this reunion. That was it last year, right? When we went to the
Last
game.
year, the Rangers game,
Yeah,
Michael.
so Coach was like, "Hey, why don't you get all these guys together?" And some of us, obviously, with one of the things about social media is that we were all already connected at somehow or another through Facebook or Instagram or whatever it was, and we still talk. Like Wally was my childhood best friend growing up, right? And so Wally and I talk, and Petey and Willie, and so I said, "Hey, Coach wants us to get together and have this thing with our families, our kids, or whoever." And so we thought Coach had some connections with the Rangers organization and said, "Hey, I can see if I can get us some deal on some tickets." And so we got this together, and all these guys showed up. And some of these guys, like I hadn't seen Lee in a long time. Petey, I'm living in Arizona. I'm not as close as the rest of the guys. So we came down there, man, and I tell you what, it was probably one of the best experiences I've had in my life, being around those guys and just shared. Paul Vera was there, him and his wife were there, and we went, we hung out. I had never met Willie's wife before, and that was cool because I've heard a lot about her, but I had never been around her before like these other guys. And so that's kind of how this started with us. And we've always had that, like you said, man, like Lee said earlier, we all grew up together, little dribblers, Tiger League football. Some of us all went to Thunderbird together, and then when we all converged to Lakeside, we kind of just, that class, even just not the baseball team, but the class as a whole. Right now we're doing something with our graduation class, and we still talk to those people to this day, and so that's been the benefit of that, being part of that group.
Hey, cool. I'm looking at this picture you just sent out, Ronnie. Coach, did you coach Michael Young, or was he just at that event?
No, our association, I was past president of the State Baseball Coaches Association. And so being in Highland Park, it does have its perks. So Michael lived in Highland Park, and he would borrow the cages to hit if I would allow it. Yeah. And so I asked him to be the speaker that year. And so he was the speaker.
Well, so funny story, tying it all back to baseball, probably his best Major League Baseball friend is Vernon Wells, who played for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yep.
Vernon and his wife Charlene are mine, and my wife's Amy. They're our best friends. They live about 2 minutes from us. We play pickleball with them about every other weekend, cards, and like just great people. But it's just funny that I saw that picture. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was on a vacation trip with the Wells, and Michael was there, and it's just fun. Like, and that's the cool thing about baseball guys. They're just baseball guys. They're just
it's a tight fraternity.
People. Yeah.
Yeah, like being in Highland Park, I'm good friends with Clayton Kershaw, and not a bad one to have on your side. And, people like that. In Highland Park, I'm going to tell you, they get a bad rap because those kids there, if the old school money, they were awesome parents. They just wanted to help in any way. And those kids were yes, sir, no, sir, all the time. Yes, sir, no, sir.
So you said the key word, Coach Oliver, old school money.
Yep.
Yes.
Where I had trouble with, somebody mentioned Highland Park. I had trouble with one parent, and they moved in from California. They're wannabes, and I won't say any more about it. But
my studio's in Highland Park. I've worked there for 15 years, so I know the difference.
When I was a cop, I used to love to stop people from Highland Park. I stripped all of them out.
Get on the car.
That's a good one.
Hey, Willie, I want to make you feel better about yourself. We've been on this call for a little over an hour and a half. I think I just peed myself.
Some things never change, do they, Will?
I'm surprised that nobody's broke out a Coke bottle instead of going to the bathroom.
Hey, Wally,
Yes,
I know Wally had mentioned some about 8th grade football. The funny thing about that is, you remember Kent Lloyd?
Oh, yeah.
I remember Kent Lloyd. So remember in the 8th grade, my we was at football practice and I broke and I said, oh, okay, I'm gonna let him tackle me. You know, y'all remember how little Kent was? And I'm thinking, man, it's gonna do good for his you know, he'll feel good about himself, confidence. I'm gonna let him tackle me. So I go and I slow down so he can tackle me, and he freaks out at the last second. So he slides under my feet and he cut my feet and I fell on top of him and I broke his leg.
I remember that. That's what I was
So after that, like when you came, I said, forget that. I'm just gonna run over the guys. And that way
So
I probably won't hurt them, you know.
So basically you're doing Wally a favor by trucking
you.
him.
Yeah, so I wouldn't fall on top of him.
Michael, the story goes I tackled you.
Yes,
Do
sir.
we have time for a story from Wally?
Absolutely. We got at least 20, 50.
This wasn't their senior year, but I want Wally to tell it from his side.
Oh man,
in Abilene when we're at a tournament and in the hotel.
I know where this is going.
Okay, so we had a shortstop that was I love this guy, but we were rooming together, and he was older than me because you said not to name names.
We can name a name.
Already.
My guy could hit, man. I'm just gonna tell you that. It's Jerry Perez. I don't care if he gets mad.
Yeah,
I haven't seen Jerry in a while. You talk about people that were older. I looked up to Jerry, but he was our shortstop. I was playing second, and anyway, I don't know why I got this harebrained idea one day to pop a Alka-Seltzer in my mouth.
Oh my gosh!
I don't know why.
We were between games, a morning game and a night game. We were back in the hotel, laying in our rooms.
Yes, so we're all laid up in our rooms, and I had practiced this joke, and I thought I better tell somebody because they're gonna freak out. So I had enough sense to tell Pete, and I said, "Hey, Pete, I'm gonna play a joke." We're all kind of laying around watching a movie, and I said, "I'm gonna put an Alka-Seltzer in my mouth. It's gonna foam up. It's gonna be crazy. Just know, I'm fine." So we're all laying around watching TV and watching a movie. Bunch of us are in there, and you know, I kind of gave Petey the sign. I popped the Alka-Seltzer in my mouth, and I wait for it to start foaming up in my mouth, and I start to cough. You know, and they're like, then I got everybody's attention. They look over, and I come over, I turn over, and I'm foaming out the mouth, crazy. Well, what I didn't expect is for Jerry to run out of the room and go get Coach Oliver and Mrs. Oliver. So he jets out of the room, and as soon as he leaves, everybody's looking at me like freaking out, and I'm like, hey, I'm fine. So I start to clean up, and we all pretend like there's nothing going on. Well, poor Jerry can't even get my name out of his mouth. He's just knocking on the door. He's like, Coach Chavez. So here comes Coach in his whitey tighties running down the hall, and Miss Oliver in her nightgown, and they're running down the hall, and we're all pretending like, hey, everything's fine. Well, Coach gets to the room and he sees me, and next thing I know, he's on top of me, like punching me, laughing. We're all having a great time, except Jerry. Oh man, I scared him to death. He wouldn't talk to me the next day at the game. I was kind of trying to, as short as the second base, I have to communicate. They don't care what I have to say. So.
Hey, is Jerry his brother Johnny?
No.
He had an older brother named Johnny?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, because there were some Perez's that played that moved to Lubbock, so I'm not sure if he ever moved back.
Where is Jerry? Anybody know?
I don't know where Jerry is. I haven't seen him in years. But I'd love to see. He had a sweet swing from the left side, man. He could hit the ball.
I'm still friends with him on Facebook, but I can't remember where he lives right now.
Are you sure he's not Johnny's brother? Because he was a left-hander. Jerry was a left-hander.
No.
Okay. Because
Jerry was left-hander. Are you thinking? No, he had a younger brother, right?
He didn't have an older brother. Okay. All right. Well, hey, I'm going to show you guys something. You know, Raymond, you said you watched our 31, our Pirates podcast.
Yeah.
We won 4 in a row championships, and I showed the guys. This ball is 46 years old.
Oh, wow.
I got all the signatures from John Joe Perez to Raymond Rivera to Mikey Baker and Andrew Dunlap. So Luthez Thompson, Robert Braddock. So 46 years old. And we've talked about, 2 years is going to be 50 years for us. We may show up in Plainview, but the better accomplishment was a year after in All Stars. We're the first team in Plainview to go to Waco, and we're talking. I'm going to try to get the guys together, whoever's around, in 3 years to do that. So, you guys, I mean, I'm envy you guys started earlier than us, but yeah, we're hoping to.
Well, I tell you what, man. I mean, Lisa said it earlier. For a community and a town, I don't want to say it was baseball royalty, but to be able to be part of the. I mean, there was a lot of people from that little town that went off and played at the next level. You know, Ronnie, Willie. I mean, some of the guys here, we all played somewhat at the next level. Even after us, there was guys that came in, and I always found that, I mean, it was, I don't say odd, but it was interesting that a little community like that had a bunch of people that were successful, you know, after high school, you know, playing baseball.
A lot of good football players.
Yeah, a lot of good football players.
I think the last time that I took an account of our team from our senior year, I want to say 13 or 14 off of that team played at the second level.
And you know, and that had to do with, you know, Michael, you know this too, as well as Coach. You know, he mentioned Coach Sherwood. I mean, you're talking about one of the greatest football coaches that ever was played in Texas. You know, not just West Texas, but Texas. And then in basketball, they had Coach Earlbeck, right?
Boy. Yeah.
And then and then we had Coach Oliver. You know, and these guys, I mean, we were blessed to have these coaches coaching us Coach Bill, you know, Coach Keith, Daryl Selke. I saw you had Coach Selke on there. That was a big influence on us when we were in junior high, man. You know, and Coach Finley, Milton Finley was my football coach, you know, my tight ends coach. And we were fortunate to have those coaches, not just us, but the eras, you guys that came before us, you know, to have those. I mean, that guy was a legend, man. It was an intimidating, as a 14, 15-year-old kid playing football at Plainview, Texas, and seeing this giant of a man there. That was, it was intimidating to know that was, you know, to have the privilege of being around that type of, you know, coaching, and that they were, you know, those guys were, I mean, they're legends, right? You know, all three of them. So
I think we need to recognize Lisa some here too. She's one of those former Angry Red athletes.
Yeah. Prom,
right, Lisa?
All that.
Tell these guys if they don't know.
I ran track and I was a really great softball player. And I was a cheerleader on the sidelines,
homecoming queen.
And I was homecoming queen, 1993. But you know, this has just been so cool. You made me lose my train of thought, but thank you. Oh, what I was going to say is Coach Sherwood really changed the tide for Plainview, Texas.
Yes, he did. Yeah. Amen.
Coach Sherwood, what he did, even after he was gone, is that the caliber of athleticism that occurred in Plainview after he came in there allowed for the recruitment of better and better coaches, which then that set off a chain reaction of inspiring kids to want to play under this system. Mm-hmm. And that's a legacy that has carried on, you know, through your generation and beyond. And so, you know, Coach Sherwood really did a lot.
You know, he started the Angry Red, enough said, and the dot on the watch, and the whole community bought into all of that. Yes. And it wasn't just for football.
No.
You know.
No.
Yeah, if you guys have a chance to watch the 78 podcast, and Raymond, you mentioned Selke, and we had Coach Tomlin, who was also was with with Coach Sherwood. You guys should take some time and watch it. There's some good stuff from there.
If y'all remember the line coach Ed Moore.
Oh yes,
remember Ed Moore, Coach Moore, big old guy, huge hands.
Baseball player.
Yes, I sat with him numerous hours because he was drafted and played in the Dodgers organization. And
Brooklyn.
He sure did. Awesome man.
He also played.
Could hide a baseball in his hand.
He also played for Kentucky under Rupp. Under Rupp, he played Kentucky basketball under Rupp. So he taught me to how to throw my curveball better, more downward, and he helped me a lot. But Yeah, he was a huge
So
man.
it wasn't one person like
No.
like we talked about. It wasn't just Willie. We couldn't have done it without all these guys. But same way with coaches, we learn from one another, you know, and how to deal with issues and things, you know, just everyday life. And Coach Sherwood was the best at that.
Yeah.
They definitely was. Well, gentlemen,
You know, and flowers to you guys for starting this. You know, you and Lisa to
You bet.
you know, we're growing up. We knew you guys. I mean, you guys were older than us, but we knew the families. You know, Michael, I know your dad. Your dad was my uncle's sensei when they used to do when he was teaching
cool.
karate. You know what I mean? And so it's like, but yeah, this is cool to have this because it kind of, you know, Plainview was like Lisa said, Plainview, you know, Goat Knuckles. Nobody knows that outside of
Absolutely.
I-27. You know what I mean? And so I tell people that are like, "What are you talking about, dude?" I'm like, "You got to just be there," you know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
And in case anybody else sees this podcast, it's not just these guys on my teams. I mean, I don't want to mention names. I'd love to, but I'm afraid I'd leave somebody out. But you know, there were so many kids starting with that 2000, not 2000, 1986 team that Willie was talking about, and that's what we started building with, and it just developed. There were a lot of good kids.
Hey,
If I can say this, oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
Well,
Go ahead, Lee.
I want to say something else because for whoever might be watching this thing, it is not shocking to anybody on this call or anyone that knows this man, Fred Oliver. It's not a coincidence that you were successful at every place you went to, because leaders lead, and good men are just good men, and they attract goodness around them. So, Coach, it's just no question like why you've been successful where you've been, and it's no surprise that none of us even realized we were your first head coaching gig, because you just treat people the way they should be treated, and guess what? Then they perform, and they treat others the way they should treat others. So that's kudos to you, man.
Thank you for saying that, Lee.
That's awesome, Lee, because I was just, as you were saying that, I was thinking, you know, if we were to interview a lot of your players from all of the districts that you coached at, you are the common denominator.
Yeah.
Not just as a coach, but as a leader and as a amazing human being. And you've touched a lot of lives. And
well, look, you go back to I was brought up in a Christian home, thank God, and attended church a lot in my life, and we all go down some bad paths, some things we shouldn't have done. But the Lord blesses you in so many ways. You got to give all the credit due back to Him.
If I can interject here too, and what I was going to say, as what Lee was saying, is that, you know, we celebrate our 1988 team a lot because we accomplished a lot. But when I talk to Coach Oliver, he lumps in the 86, 87, and 88 teams kind of all together. You know, it's kind of like the players that played for him and the families that were involved in that is what matters to him. Yes, we celebrate this year, but we also realize that that wouldn't have happened without the 87 or the 86 guys. And what I learned from Coach, or what I appreciate about him, is that he'll bring up players from the 86 teams and 87 teams, just like he does this team, because for him, I think it was a Plainview experience. And I appreciate the fact that he always wants to include, you know, everybody else along the way.
Cool.
Thank you, Wally.
So, Coach, did Coach Hill just stop coaching baseball, or did he retire from coaching?
He went to Coronado.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he went to. I don't know if he stayed that year I was there or not. Did he, guys?
I think he did.
Was he a football? I think he was coaching
football coach.
Football coach.
Stayed with Coach Sherwood, but then ended up going to Coronado. And so, you know, yeah, I mean, we're friends. I haven't seen him in a long time, but we remained friends there a long time. And he would call me and compliment me on my players at Monterey and wherever I was, you know.
That's cool.
But yeah, I followed him, and I don't know why if he just stepped down or what. I don't.
I can tell you because he got tired of the parents. he made some moves that year that really made some people mad. But it was, if anybody know Coach Hill, it was, hey, this is how we're gonna do it. And some people went against how he did things. And one particular person chose to go on a senior trip during baseball season, and he never pitched again. And he made that choice, and that's why I got to pitch as a freshman. I wasn't a pitcher, but I started being able to pitch, and I ended up pitching, a game in the playoffs against Abilene Cooper that year because of that. So, I know that was one of the things that with that. And like I said the last time, Coach Hill was the first person that told me about even having an opportunity to play pro baseball. Right. He was also, I'm gonna tell this funny story about Coach Hill one time. Raymond might remember it, but I never said anything to anybody when I was a freshman. I just kept to myself. And one time I had struck out and I was sitting on a bench and I yelled, dang. I didn't yell it, but I was saying, dang. And I kind of made this face, and I heard somebody say, you think that's funny? And I'm like, I look around and I hear, you think that's funny? And I'm like, and I see Coach Hill looking at me, and I'm like, no. And he's coaching third base, and we're right there by the dugout, and the inning's over, and he's like, get out the dugout, go behind the dugout. So he tells me to go behind the dugout. I go stand behind the dugout, and a few minutes later, he comes around the dugout. He has like 6 or 7 baseballs in his hand. And so I'm standing there, and he starts getting on me, and then he tells me, hey, scoot back. So I scoot back, and I'm standing there, and he tells me to reach up and grab this bar above my head. So I reach up and grab it, and then he goes, you better not move. And he takes the baseball, and he looks at my private part, and he puts the baseball like that. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this man is going to hit me with these baseballs. So he rears back like he's about to throw the ball. And when he goes forward, I pull my hands down and I cover up like that. And I hear everybody in the dugout will start bust out laughing because they were already looking. And then he was like, get back in the dugout, And I understood Coach Hill on that because I never said anything. And I was having a really good year for a freshman. And so when he got that opportunity to dig into me, he took that chance. And but yeah, Coach Hill was all about that discipline.
Oh yeah, yes he was. I was on his team when he started coaching as well. So yeah, he's a good man. He's a good Christian man.
He is a good man. Yeah.
Good. So guys, something I'm going to ask one question outside of baseball. When Lisa and I were seniors, we used to hang out, or the seniors or the kids will hang out at the fun station. Where did you guys hang out?
Anthony's parking lot.
Anthony's Family Fun Park.
Hey,
Church
parking lot.
Church. Now we had strict rules. You couldn't drink. All right,
boys.
Well, hey, Michael, let me tell you this story real quick. Michael, let me tell you this story real quick, okay?
One quick story.
Okay.
I'm leaving.
The summer before my senior year, we had one of the guys had a big party, and we all drank. And of course, as school started our senior, someone knocked on me and Andrew. So Coach Hill, of course, gave us that last warning: do not, if I hear you guys drinking again, you're going to be off the team. So yeah, I was clean the whole rest of the year. But as soon as the last game was over, I had a little fun. So let me hear y'all's little story.
Well, being in Plainview, it's I think every person in high school rite of passages to go to that little town up north.
Yes.
I mentioned no names, but it's holy water and holy city,
holy land.
And me and a couple of guys, I won't mention their names. I was a senior in high school, and I wanted to play at the next level, right? And So I enjoyed playing football, but baseball was my first love, right? I played football because I could play, but me and a couple of buddies go to Thursday, and we go up to Nazareth, and we go get some libations, some beer, and there was a couple of football coaches there. And we thought that, hey, what are you guys doing here? And one of the coaches said, I just came over here to get some cooking wine for my wife and I. And the other guy had a 12-pack of Coors Light. And I'm like, I don't know if you can cook with that Coors Light, but I'm 18 years old. I'm not thinking. And my buddies were like, dude, why are you talking to them? And we didn't think nothing about it. Well, Monday morning, my dad pulls me out of bed and says, Coach Sherwood wants to talk to you in the office now. And I was like, what did you do? And he already knew what had happened. Obviously, Coach Sherwood told him. So me and those two guys show up to Coach Sherwood's office that morning, and he said, what happened over there? What were y'all doing up there? We said, nothing, Coach. He said, well, the coaches already told us what happened. And they said, you got all day, but when you come back from school, there's going to be some discipline. And if you want to step on my field, you're going to have to do this. Well, when we walked out of that building, one of those guys said, I'm not coming back. This football is not really my thing. I'm not going to do this. So me and this other guy show up. Well, I'm getting dressed in the field house. And Ronnie talked about Coach Oliver kicking that thing and putting him on the head. Coach Oliver comes behind me and he said, Pena, if you ever want to get on my diamond, you better not quit. And, I was like, but Coach Sherwood, Coach Sherwood used to have that little spit right here on the side of his face. And me and this guy started doing gassers. He had the whole team, and you remember how we used to practice behind Bulldogs Stadium? We had the stadium behind the back, where the junior varsity played. Yep. And we're running gassers, Michael and Ronnie and these guys, remember, Willie and them were there. And Coach, all I could look at Coach Oliver, and this is what I tell you guys, that these men were fair and just. I knew what I did was wrong, right? And my teammates were there, and we were running these gassers. And I don't know if it was the 5th one or the 3rd one or the 10th one, but Coach Sherwood got in my face and he's like, you got to quit, Pena. And I'm like, quit. I want you to. I said, no, sir, I'm not quitting. And the other guy left. He quit. He walked off. He said, I'm done. And I'm throwing up, and they're making us run these gassers and stuff. And but I remember that and distinctly because Coach Oliver came and said, if you better not quit, Raymond, because if you do, you're not stepping on my diamond, And I got hurt later on that season, homecoming game. I dislocated my ankle. And so when I was coming back, Coach Oliver pulled me to the side, and this is where we talk about that ego and stuff. Petey was always a better fielder than I was. I mean, he was like a Hoover vacuum over. He could scoop up anything, no matter what Wally or Domingo or Nick threw at him. And then Ronnie was in the back, and he was always like the gatekeeper. He would tell Coach Oliver if we weren't pitching well, me, Renee, Stan, anybody that was pitching. And but I remember that distinctly because these guys were like, Coach Oliver and he was fair. He said, Raymond, I'm going to need you to DH and pitch. I'm going to make Petey the starting first baseman. And I was like, and that as a kid, you think, well, me and Petey both platoon there. But at that point, I knew that Petey was a better fielder than I was. And I didn't take that as an offense. I said, okay, Coach, I just want to win. I want to, be successful. But you talk about drinking. That was, and one time we were at a party and we were all partying there, and Mecca was there, and she was like, I'm not going to tell my dad. And the next thing you know, she was telling her dad that we were at this party. So, yeah, we know about them drinking parties.
Hey, Michael.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Hey,
yes, sir.
Yeah. Last summer, we were together with the Rangers. We all went out to dinner, and we were all ordering. And Coach Oliver looks at us and says, hey. We all look up, and he says, You guys can drink now. I said, Coach, we were drinking back then too.
Hey, speak for yourself, Wally.
Oh, don't even know, Lee.
Not in high school.
It lies.
Not in high school.
Yeah, we don't want to go there, do we?
I'm sorry. Falsely accused at the choir thing. I forgot.
Don't forget, your kids may be watching this, or your grandkids will be watching this podcast.
I didn't say anything about tonight. I said not in high school.
Well, Miss Lisa, you got anything to ask him?
No, I don't. I think we've gone just a minute over 2 hours, so people probably need to eat dinner, and Willie needs to get to work. Gentlemen, it has been such a great pleasure seeing you or meeting you for the first time and hearing your stories. And I'm just so honored to hold space and be a witness to this incredible legacy that you are all a part of. And man, I hope y'all feel so grateful to have each other and that you still have these bonds and friendships all these years later, because that's a rarity in these days. And it's a real blessing. And please acknowledge the blessing.
Yes, absolutely. Well, let's do some quick parting ways.
So much.
Real quick parting ways. Willie, we'll start with you just in case you need to leave. Let's hear some parting words.
Well, I just want to thank you guys for having us on and having me on last week. I appreciate you doing this. And, you know, these guys are the best. You know, Coach Oliver, he's the best. And I appreciate having them in my life and being able to grow up with them and play with them. And even now, every time we get together, it's always a blast. So just enjoy it and appreciate everything they've accomplished in their life too. All these guys are successful in their life, their families, and all of that. So we come from good stock in Plainview, and just appreciate y'all again. And I gotta go.
All right, thank you, Willie. What about you, Raymond?
Hey, Willie.
Take
Tell
it
Terry.
You know what? I'm just gonna, I think, like Willie said, the biggest thing that I get out of this is that we've been able to, that not just in high school, but as later on in life, that we're still together. We're still in contact with each other, and it's a testament to Plainview and to Coach Oliver that we are successful in our lives now. Later on, I mean, it's fun to talk about the good old days and the baseball and all that, but when we get together now, it's about, hey, what are you guys doing now in life? And now we're getting older, right? I'll be 55 this year. I was older than these guys coming up. And it's like, it's good to see that we're still here. Thank God we're still here and that we still got our faculties, and, that we can, when we do get together, it's like we saw each other last week instead of 5 years ago. So I think that's the greatest thing that I got out of this being part of that team, was that we're still friends to this day.
Beautiful. Ronnie?
Well, I think, I ran around with all different kind of guys in high school. I played ball with Wally and Raymond at Sorrel State. I mean, great influences on my life. Coach Oliver, big time for me, not only in high school, but throughout, my coaching career. I mean, it's a great thing that we can all talk again and talk often, but, these guys are my brothers, and, it's a great thing for us to always be able to come together.
Beautiful as well. Okay, Ronnie. Well, I'm sorry, Wally.
Let me just first, I wish Willie was here to hear this, but I know Willie on his podcast said that he, beyond his playing days, wanted to impact lives. From the time that I was on a ball field with Willie, he impacted my life. And I always said, because Willie Ansley, I know he was just a teammate. We all say he was just a teammate, and we treated him that way, but we knew he was special. I knew he was special when I first saw him at 8 and 9 years old. And I always say that because Willie, I got to see things, I got to do things on the ball field and experience a life because of him. And so maybe someday he'll hear that, but he's been impacting lives a long time before. And he is he's the greatest natural athlete I've ever seen or been around. Yet he's the most humble athlete with that kind of talent I've ever been around. When people ask me about Willie, I'll say he was confident, no doubt, but he was humble, right? And so, and I want to say this, I love you guys. I always appreciate getting to see you and hang out, even it's through Zoom. We got too many memories to cover in just 2 hours, but I just want to say I love you guys, appreciate you. And I'd be remiss if we didn't mention the other guys on our team that were underclassmen, because this wouldn't have happened. That 88 season wouldn't have happened without Stan Robertson, without Domingo Foz, without Keith Mayberry, Robert Galvan,
Nick Luna,
JJ Smith,
Nick Luna, and Rene Perez, of course. And so
Rene Perez was a big
this,
part of that.
Yeah, exactly. And some of the guys that weren't seniors at the time, but made it happen. We appreciate all of them as well. And so we want to shout out to them. And Bobby Feaster, assistant coach.
Nice. Nice. Petey, what about you, man?
Yeah, so thanks for having us on. Thanks for putting it together. It's always good to see these guys. We have a lot of memories, a lot of good times together growing up, and I appreciate you bringing us all together. I tell people all the time, not many of us are still there in Plainview. I know some still are, but we're all scattered all over the place. And when somebody says something about being in the Texas Panhandle or going to visit, I tell them all the time, you will not find better people than there are in the Texas Panhandle, and there is no doubt about that.
Nice.
Amen.
Lee.
Well, I've got 4 kids, and I tell them all the time, pick wisely when you pick your friends. Pick people who will make you be a better person. And I didn't pick these guys, but I tell my kids that all the time, because it started largely in part to this group of guys right here, because it was such a brotherhood. They always challenged me to be better. Ronnie, I was thinking about you and Brent and the times that we would go get McDonald's lunch. And I mean, just all those times, like just being around this group of guys launched me into the man that I am today. And I've always tried to pick friends who would do the same thing for me, challenge me to be better. So it started right here with this group of guys.
Oh, Coach, last one.
First of all, I want to thank Lisa and Michael for putting this on. This is awesome. I knew nothing about this podcast. Now I'm going to start watching them. I watched earlier the one with Tomlin and Selke, because Selke and I have been buddies a long time. And then Chad Englehart, who's my neighbor down here, he's hooked up. He's going to start watching. But, we all mature at different levels in our life. And as a coach, when you're coaching, especially when you're young, you put the wins out there. You think, oh, we got to win this. We got to win this. We got to win the next one, and it's all about wins. But it really boils down to relationships and memories. They're, to me, worth much more than all those close to 600 wins. Some of them I've even forgotten. I don't even know, but I haven't forgotten these guys and their families. And they are what make a coaching career, because of the relationships that we've developed. And every time I hear one of them, talk to them, text, whatever, it really thrills me, because I know they're all been successful. Rod Williams sends me texts all the time. I took him to some football playoff games last year up at the Star where the Cowboys are. And it's just the relationships that we developed in that town of Plainview, Texas. And it's been awesome. Ronnie is one of those, Ronnie Ortegon, that I've stayed in touch with all of my career once I went to Plainview. And so, yeah, it's fantastic. I love all these guys. They know it, and they know that I'd help them out till the day I die, anything they need.
Well, I just want to say that really, Willie really loves you guys, because when I first reached out to him, it was just going to be Willie. But then I remember that LinkedIn, as I mentioned earlier, Coach, that you commented on my photo, and you guys had a little reunion. And I said, well, let's bring your boys on too. I said, typically we like 5 or 6. He goes, man, I got 7 of them, maybe 8. I'm like, well, that's too many. No, man, I got to have all my boys. And I'm like, all right, Willie, whatever you need, man, we'll put them all on. So he definitely loves you guys, and appreciate y'all's friendship. So just a little FYI.
I wish he was here. I was going to show him that they retired that bus. It's down here.
Hey, Willie, Petey's confiscated that from the police yard over there.
think I saw that in a serial killer movie.
Yeah.
I'm leaving Friday. You talk about relationships. The class of '84 in Owasso, Oklahoma, invited me back to their reunion. So I'm going
nice.
up to Tulsa and to Owasso and spend it with those guys too.
Oh, cool.
But they're nothing like. I'm telling you, this is special. This group is special. Yeah.
Well, I'll make sure we'll send them the link.
Yeah.
When you visit them.
Yeah, and he didn't mention that yellow bus was the short yellow bus.
That's what you, Lisa. That's what you guys rode back in your cheerleading days.
I told my 8-year-old grandson the other day, I said, they're going to school bus. There goes a yellow dog. He said, what? What do you call that a yellow dog for?
Yeah, you're right, Michael. We rode the short bus to the games. The cheerleading.
Yeah. I got in trouble. I think Quineth and I got in trouble. It was a baseball game. No, hasn't been a football game. The coach says, you guys aren't riding with us. You're riding with the cheerleaders. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, no problem. Well, gentlemen, thank you. Thank you.
Hey,
you guys
Michael,
keep it
Lisa,
up.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
One other thing before we sign off, and this is more directed to you, Coach Oliver, because you're friends with John Hill. He had a huge impact on me just as my algebra teacher, and I was very close to he and his wife Jana, and he mentored Ronnie Ortegon a lot. Some of you may know I used to be married to Ronnie, but anyway, he was my best friend in high school. But John and Jana Hill, I went to college because they paid for my tuition.
Wow.
Awesome.
Wow.
Awesome.
It was like, they just bought a brand new little Audi sports car, and he said, you're going to learn how to drive a stick, and you're keeping the car for the summer. And I flooded the car out because I didn't close the sunroof. And they're like, and you're going to college. And Jana drove me to Texas Tech and registered, and they paid for my freshman year of college.
Wow, that's cool.
That's Plainview.
Yeah, that's Coach Hill for you. Speaking of, Coach, can you text us Coach Hill's number? Because in a couple of weeks, I'm going to have my senior boys, on a podcast, and we have Coach Brown, who's assistant coach for. we'd like to invite Coach Hill as well. So if you could text it to us.
I don't know if I still have Coach Hill's number or not. After we moved several times, but he was doing some algebra tutoring at Estacada for several years. And then I don't know if he's still in Lubbock or not. I don't have his number.
Okay. Okay. No problem.
I'll reach out to him on Facebook Messenger.
Well, guys, we got to run. So thank you again.
Anybody ever comes through Weatherford, stop off.
Yes. I should publish this sometime in the morning when Lisa gives me the link, and I will share it on our Facebook page. And is everyone on join our Facebook page?
I'm not on Facebook.
I'm not on there. I got on YouTube. I subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Okay, well then I'll send a YouTube link as well tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, thank you. Awesome.
Thank you.
Keep it up, guys.
God bless you all.
Take care, guys.
God bless you.
Love you guys.
Take care.
Michael, you hit it out of the park.
They did it all. They did it all. That's a tight group. Niche group. It really is. There really are. And
energy, their cohesive energy was so palpable to me, even through the screen. Like I could feel the level of affection that they felt for each other and emotion. I mean, I really, really felt it. I was so moved tonight. Yeah.
And it was pretty cool that a couple of them, mentioned Ronnie. It was an inspiration to them as a young kid. So, hats off to Ronnie. And of course, they mentioned the Veras and John Joe Perez. So, yes, these are a good group of kids. So, anyway, our next show for next week is Class of '81. We're gonna have some more football players from the Class of '81 next week. So, stay tuned. All right, Miss Lisa.
And those of you listening out there, if you're watching our program, first of all, thank you so much. This little grassroots effort of ours. But secondly, please come on our show, reach out to us. and bring your friends, or you want to, or if you don't want to be on the show, but you've got a good idea for a show, a theme or a topic, send us a message. But come be a part of this. This is a really fun thing that we're doing, and
It is.
it's been on. It's had a really good time. So
Absolutely.
don't wait for us to contact you.
Yes, exactly.
Contact us. Okay, so that's my public service announcement. Okay.
There you go. All right. Well, peace and love, Lisa.
Good night,
Peace and
Migo.
love.